Hello everyone, it's 6 o'clock, so let's get going. My name is John Cheek. I'm here from UniTasterDays. I'm the founder and director of UniTasterDays, and I'm going to be hosting today the Study in the Midlands webinar. In terms of my job, I've got the easiest job of the lot because all I'm going to be doing is introducing the event, introducing our speakers, introducing the fantastic range of universities that are joining us as well, and then finishing things off at the end. It is great to see so many people here already to find out about all aspects of university guidance. We're covering so many different topics today, everything from student fees and finance through to personal statements, through to introducing what it's like to study in the East Midlands and the West Midlands. What I'm going to do though first is just really quickly just share my screen and just introduce the event that we've got this evening. I mentioned about presentations, and we've got a series of 9 very short 10-minute presentations on the key aspects of university. So we're going to open up shortly with Danny from Coventry University, who's going to talk about the reasons to consider going to university. Then we're going to introduce what it's like to study in the West Midlands, and we're really fortunate to have Ellie joining us, who's a current student at Staffordshire University. We're then going to go through some really key tips looking at pre-application stages. So we're going to introduce university research and how you can really undertake fantastic university research. We're going to talk about degree apprenticeships, which you might have seen loads in the news about the rise and rise of degree apprenticeships. And we're going to talk to you about them, let you know about them and why you might want to consider one. We're then going to move on and talk about the university application process and what to expect after you apply. And linked to that, it's going to work really well because we're going to talk about personal statements and give you some really, really key tips when it comes to personal statements, including the ABC model, which is really, really popular with schools. Then we're going to talk about studying in the East Midlands, which is going to follow nicely from the West Midlands session that we're going to do right at the start. And then finish off with the key barrier to university, and that is student fees and finance. If you generally speak to any student or any school about barriers to university and the reason students perhaps don't want to go to university, student finance is generally always number one. So we're going to tell you how student finance works, how repayments work, and also link budgeting in there as well, and give you some top tips when it comes to budgeting before and during university. But one of the questions whenever we run events like this is linked to what courses each institution offers. And what I want to do first is just spend a minute just showing you the universities that are present and joining us this evening and the subject areas that they actually offer their courses in. So on the slide here, and it's quite a busy slide, I'm afraid, but there's a lot of information here. You've got courses or subject areas on the left-hand side. So you've got art, media and design, and it goes down there showing different subject areas. And then right at the top, we've got universities. So now these are the universities that are joining us this evening. So we've got Aston University, Birmingham City University, Bishop Grosseteste University, Coventry University, Keele University, Staffordshire University, University of Birmingham, and then as well as the University of Birmingham, we have two other universities, the University of Derby and the University of Nottingham. So as you can tell, lots of expert presentations, lots of brilliant speakers, and we're going to be covering all aspects of university guidance. So on the chart here, you've got subjects on the left, and then the green indicates if a subject is covered by that university. So you've got there, Birmingham City University offer art, media and design, as do Coventry, as do Staffordshire, and then you can see the red for those universities that don't. And then page 2 of 2, come in. Works exactly the same way. You've got different subject areas on the left-hand side, same list of universities along the top. Then red indicates that they don't offer it. So you can, for example, you see languages here is University of Birmingham and Nottingham that offer that. And then green indicates they do. Right then, if I can now introduce our first speaker, please. That's Danny. Danny is joining us from Coventry University, and Danny's going to do a session on the reasons you might wish to consider university and cover some fantastic tips in terms of actually why or why not you might want to consider university. And with that, Danny, I'll pass things over to you, please.
So my name's Danny North. I work over at Coventry University, and I'm a regional recruitment specialist. So we'll get started and sort of for you guys to think about the reasons why you may want to consider going to university. Number one, obviously you're going to be studying something that you enjoy. So you have a passion for this course area. It might be something that has grabbed your attention for the last several years. You might have thought about when you was studying your GCSEs or earlier on in life as well. It might be something that's just come to your attention recently. You might have looked at something at a university, or you might have read something online as well that's really grabbed your attention for that area or that particular sort of course and career. So some of you guys might be looking at sort of engineering, some of you might be looking at psychology, law, nursing, just to kind of reel a few courses off there that you could be looking at. And again, you've got a whole host of universities here this evening to, to share their kind of, course portfolio. So again, if you do have questions on the courses that we have, and also John mentioned at the start there, the ones that we do and don't cover, again, we can give you some more information on that. And again, this is something that you're going to enjoy. You're going to be spending potentially 3, maybe even 4 years of that course. So again, it's something that you're going to be passionate about. When I was sort of looking at university, we're going back 11 years ago now, my interest and my sort of passion lied in media subjects. And I did a lot of work in radio, and then that actually spurred me on to make my decision to go and study radio production at university. And that was something that was really, really close to my heart, and something that I enjoyed, and then went on further to study at a university degree as well. So firstly, you're going to be studying it because you enjoy it. I remember as well, when you're at uni, you're going to gain lots and lots of transferable skills. So obviously throughout your life, you've all been sort of building on your skills, but university is going to help you. It's going to bring you out your shell a little bit more, and really help you for the wider world after you graduate from your course and going into your jobs. So a lot of employers, when they write up job descriptions, they ask for a particular set of skills that will be really appropriate for those roles. Examples that we've got here: presentation, leadership, time management. These are all going to be key skill qualities that is going to be really, really important for you guys going on to your future endeavours after you graduate from the course as well. One skill that I really took home from university was presentation, because I was presenting live on radio quite a lot and having to do kind of a lot of presentations in front of my lectures. And that was one of the skills that I really, really excelled in, and I was really sort of happy to and pleased that I was given that opportunity to do that as well. But there's a whole heap of skills that you'll be able to benefit from at university, and also help you in later life with your future careers. So then obviously you want to be looking at sort of career and prospect salaries going forward. Now, a lot of careers nowadays, they do recognise the hard work and efforts that university students put into to their 3-4 year tenure of the degree course, and it's really important for those skills to be shared. And what you'll find after you graduate is a lot of employers nowadays, they do look for students to have a degree or an equivalent in terms of actually going for that job. So the job specification that we have here is one of the essential requirements is that students do need to have a degree or an equivalent to actually be considered for that role. For this role itself, there's not a specification that students need a specific degree. However, on the next example I'll show you, there may be careers out there that do ask for specific degrees that students have actually studied. So we'll just highlight that there, and then we'll go on to the next slide here, which actually is a career prospect job for physiotherapy. And what you'll actually see here is that one of the requirements to actually get into this role is you must have a degree/diploma in physiotherapy, because university is going to give you, that learning, that relevant work experience, those skills within that physiotherapy discipline. That is something that the role is going to need, because students are going to be learning specific skills. So again, some jobs need a degree, not specific in the type of degree you have. But some job roles, they will need students to have a specific degree in order to progress onto that job application further. One of the things that the Office for National Statistics publishes every year is a graduate labour report, and what it does is it compares sort of graduates, postgraduate students, and also non-graduate students. And what you can see here from the timeline, sort of going back from 2013 to 2020, there's a common pattern that students who go to university, and they do earn more when they come out of university than non-graduates. So for the report that was published last year, you can see that there's a £9,500 median salary between graduates and non-graduates as well. So that is something that you know, you can have a look and consider. Again, this report is online as well, so if anyone does want to have a look at it for your own research, this is available for you to have a look at as well. So what are the other reasons why people go to university? So you're going to obviously meet lots and lots of new people at university. Universities have, you know, thousands of students on the campus, and that could be, you know, within your course. It could be people that you move into your accommodation with, and these could be people that you keep in touch with for the rest of your lives after you go to university. Quick story from me: when I went to university 11 years ago, I actually met my wife there, and we've been happily married now for 4 years. And so I always say as students, you know, you could go there, enjoy the best time of your life, and you could meet your partner for life when you go to university. And yeah, it could happen. Apologies if you just guys and you feel a little sick at, but I always say that story when I do this presentation as well. So again, meet lots and lots of new people, and the great thing about going to university is the studying, but also the social aspect as well. So obviously you won't just be sat in a lecture hall Monday to Friday, lecturers talking to you about your course, you're doing coursework, all that. You will have the aspect of the social scene. Now, obviously, universities will have their own student unions. There will be lots of activities happening within sort of the towns or city that the university is based in. And it's about you guys finding out, you know, what is going to be, you know, right for you going forward. So if you want to get involved with the sports teams, if you're, you know, really active into your sports, you can get involved with that. And universities allow students to take time out of their lectures to go and compete in sports matches, training. There's also an annual competition called Varsity, again, that you can get involved with at university as well. So these are all the things that you're able to consider. There's also things like societies that you can get involved with. And these are great ways to meet new people. Societies could include, and I'm just again covering what we have at Coventry, anything from the Harry Potter Society, Quidditch Society. I've got no idea how it works, but there is a Quidditch Society there for students. Gaming, film, TV, there's even chocolate making society as well. There's lots and lots of options out there for you guys to have a look at. And again, you've got the option of the study, but also the social aspect going forward as well, which is a great opportunity. And especially when I was at uni, you know, I really got involved with the sports teams. You know, ultimate frisbee was what I participated in. I got involved with the local radio station again, because not only was it part of my course, but we did stuff out of the course in our spare time as well. It's really, really good to have a look at. And even if it's something that you've never even dreamt of getting involved with, so a sport that you've never tried before, university is a great opportunity to get involved with that as well. So if you're looking to, you know, get some international experience or go abroad, then again, universities do have the opportunity for you to reach out and go further afield. And whether it be you look at going on a trip abroad, or whether you look to get some work experience abroad as well. My brother-in-law is actually heading off to Lille in France as part of his university course soon. He's actually going to study at a partner university with the university he's currently studying at. So he's really, really excited about the opportunity available as well. And again, if that is something that you guys are really looking to do and really take full advantage of when you're at university, then absolutely have a look at that and see, you know, where students have been in the past. Obviously, there's been some recent restrictions due to the coronavirus, and fingers crossed, you know, we can start opening up, you know, international opportunities going forward. But again, it's really worth having a look at, seeing what, you know, your course offers you, and taking full advantage, because your university times, you want to look back with great memories. You want to take full advantage of everything. There's no regrets, and this is something to look back on as well.
Danny, thank you very much. A brilliant introduction in terms to start the event, looking at reasons students might wish to consider university. What we're going to look at now is move on to a student perspective of university and go through some of the reasons why students might wish to Well, to tell you more about a student experience of university, and I thought really early in the event it'd be brilliant to hear from a real university student. And let me introduce now Ellie, who's joined us from Staffordshire University to provide an introduction to studying in the West Midlands and a little bit about her student experience as well. And with that, Ellie, I'll pass to you, please.
Obviously, my name's Ellie. I am actually a final year psychology student studying over at Staffs, which is in the West Midlands. And I was actually born over in Leicester, which is in the East Midlands. So I am a Midlander through and through. You can't really get much more Midland than me. So for me, I needed to choose a university that was still kind of close to home. I'm a home bird normally. I still like my home comforts. So I chose Staffordshire and the West Midlands because it was only an hour drive for me. And even then it was only an hour on the train. As well, the train links to Birmingham and Manchester were really important to me just to make sure that I could still travel around for going shopping or anything like that. As well, the West Midlands are known to be one of the most affordable places in the country to live. And for me, I wanted a place with cheap accommodation, cheap food. It meant that I could spend my money on other things. As well, my course was really important to me. With being a psychologist, I really wanted to have a course that was accredited by the British Psychological Society, which meant that I could then go forward and practice being a chartered psychologist if I wished after university. As well, I really needed to be around friendly staff members because if I had any questions for anybody, I wanted to make sure that I could just go, I don't understand, please can you help me? And as well, following on what Danny mentioned, do a course that you enjoy doing, because doing a subject that you enjoy means that you're not actually feeling like it's work. As well, what's in and around the West Midlands? It's so important to actually know what's around your university, just because it's easier and it means that you can do things instead of just sitting at your home. So within the West Midlands, we've got Alton Towers. So if you like your theme parks, it's perfect for you. Shopping centres, Trentham Gardens, Monkey Forest, which is about a 3/4 of a mile long stretch of monkeys that you can walk through. You've got Blisshill, Peak District. You've even got West Midlands Safari Park, which is absolutely amazing to go to. But no matter where you study, always look to see what's there and what's available to you. So as well, with your social life, no matter where you go, you're going to have one. Pre-COVID, no matter which university you went to, especially in the Midlands, there was lots of nightlife. And with being a cost-effective place, there was loads of cheap places that you could go to. As well, look at societies that you might be interested in, because no matter what you're into, whether it's more academic based like law, psychology, more academic societies, or towards your more weird and wonderful ones that aren't very conventional. For example, we have a society at the university where they are known as the Guild of Assassins, where they run around the campus with Nerf guns. It's absolutely amazing to see. And again, the societies are there for you to make friends, meet like-minded people. As well, look at different activities that are off campus so you can have another circle of friends. For myself, I volunteered in the Scouting Association just so I could get myself around another circle of friends, just have more connections in and around university. Being a student, workload is so important, and it's really important to know what you're getting yourself into. For me, being a final year student, I would spend about 8 to 10 hours per week in my lectures, and they would be split between the big lectures, the seminars and workshops. So the big lectures, you'd be with all of your course, whether it be like psychology and counselling, all people that fall under that umbrella. Seminars are in smaller groups, so it's your opportunity to ask questions, really get to grips with what you're knowing. And the workshops are more practical, you get to use the equipment. So again, and with university, you get access to industry standard equipment to make sure that you can use what you need to. And as well, a big part of university is your independent study. So for me, I spent about 25 hours a week doing independent study, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't when you're actually doing something that you enjoy. And the work that you put into your degree really shows at the end of it. My university experience, university has been the best decision I've ever made. I came from college not really enjoying education, not leaving with the best of grades. And I've graduated now with a 2-1 overall, which is 1 grade below the top. So university was the best decision I've ever made. I've made so many friends for life. You can see there's my best friend Emily in the picture. and we met through work, which I'll touch on a little bit later. Again, affordable rent. I didn't want to be paying the world to live in, but accommodation, again, you get to live with your friends, and it's a great way that you can have a family away from your family. As well, we have access to career services, mental health support. So no matter which university you look at in the Midlands, see what support is there for you. For example, myself, I suffer with both anxiety and depression, so I needed to be at a university which really catered for my mental health. And again, being at university has done wonders for my mental health. I'm a lot more confident. I wouldn't be able to sit and present a webinar to anybody pre-university, and now I'm actually here somehow doing it. So university does wonders for your self-esteem and confidence. As well, I know the other panelists will be touching on budgeting later on, but again, the West Midlands is such an affordable place to live, and the Midlands in general. But for me, I needed to make sure that I worked during my degree to make sure that I was able to afford not to have to go away and brand beans and stuff like that. So I really recommend looking at on-campus jobs. So you've got the flexibility of working when you want to, pay is usually good. And as well, you meet so many new friends. For example, I've met my partner through my job as an ambassador, and we've been together a while now, and it was the best thing that I've ever done. As well, budgeting is so important for a student. I won't touch on that too much because I know it will be mentioned later, but definitely tune in to the budgeting talks because it is so important. And life after university, it will creep up on you no matter how long you want your degree to last. So obviously you're going to get a degree out of this, and you can take advantage of the university's career links no matter where you go, because every university has a partnership with at least one employer to do something. For me personally, I might do a master's or a postgraduate qualification, but I'm not sure. At the end of it, I'm only 21 and I've only recently graduated. So I have no idea what I'm doing yet, and that's completely fine. I'm applying for jobs and seeing how I go. But my university course and my degree are taking me so much further than I would have gone without a degree. So this is my little section finished. If you do have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the Q&A. Myself and Liz will be able to answer any questions that you guys might have for us. But I just want to thank you all for listening to my presentation, and I will pass you back over to John. Thank you.
Ellie, thank you very much. Really, really, really great session looking at study in the West Midlands, and also a student perspective, and so fantastic to hear about what a brilliant experience you had at university, which links so well with Danny's session, which looked at the reasons you might well consider university. Now I'm going to pass over to Lottie, who's going to talk about researching universities with some top tips when it comes to your university research. With that, Lottie, I'll pass things to you, please.
Brill. So hi everyone, my name is Lottie and I'm from Bishop Grosseteste University in Lincoln. So I'm going to briefly share with you today some useful tips for starting your research into universities, because we all know how really daunting it can be. So hopefully you will find the next couple of slides really useful to help you. There are around about 395 higher education providers within the UK, and over 37,000 courses available for you to choose from. So hopefully with that much to choose from, you'll be able to find something that suits you. But with these figures in mind, I'm sure you're already thinking, where do I even start when it comes to researching universities? So to help you, first of all, there are 4 things you should consider and decide beforehand. So firstly, there is the course or degree that you need to get in order to join a career that you want to get into. So for example, if you want to become a teacher, then you would need to qualify, you'd need your qualified teaching status. So this means you can start looking at courses that gives you that QTS, and then looking at universities and seeing what they provide you to help you towards your career goals. Secondly, you could simply choose a course that you are passionate about. So 3 years is a really long time to study a degree, so you really need to find something that you enjoy and find interesting. So think about your favourite subjects, maybe that you studied at school or at college, or a subject that you just wish to learn more about. Next is, how do you learn best? So are you more practical or are you more academic? So if you're more practical minded, a course with more placements in a workplace may suit you better. Whereas if you're more academic, You may want to choose a course where you'll receive more lectures and you'll be able to debate your subject in more detail within a classroom. And then the final thing to consider is the other opportunities available that you can get from your course. So will your course allow you to have a year in industry or go out on field trips or places abroad, and also maybe look at how much support the university will give you. So these are just things to keep in mind when you're considering looking at university. So here are a couple of things you may want to think about before you start your research and decide which ones matter the most to you. So is the location a bigger deal to you than, let's say, the size of the university? So maybe you want to be closer to home, but the only university close to your home is a really small one compared to others which are further away. So you need to think, would this matter to you? So this is just a really simple task for you to start to maybe think about. So if you did want to make a note of any of these and then put them in order of priority to you, then that would be a really good start to help sort of develop and understand what you really want out of your university experience. So for example, for me, it was the course and the location that mattered the most. So I wanted to be away from home, but not so far away that I couldn't easily just hop on a train back if I needed to. And then the course was really important because I wanted to travel with my degree. So I studied photography. So I just felt travel was naturally a great fit for that. So that was something that I factored in when researching my university, and they were my main two priorities when researching. So now we've established what matters most to you, where can you start your search? So firstly, have a look at what your school or your college are organising. So do they have any career fairs coming up that you can attend to speak to maybe perhaps different universities within your area, and also career professionals as well? So this is a great chance for you to get an understanding of whether or not higher education is for you. And also maybe you can start having those conversations with your universities and find out about the entry requirements and also the different courses which are out there. You can also attend UCAS exhibitions. So there's quite a lot of these throughout the year where you'll meet hundreds and hundreds of universities. And most importantly, you get to come away with a lot of freebies. But this tends to be when we have the physical events. So this is always something that's just really great about the exhibitions. You sort of get a hoard of freebies. But again, it does give you that opportunity to ask any questions that you have and learn about some of the institutions that you may have never even looked at before. You could also speak to your career lead at your school to see if they have any information to help you. And you can also order prospectuses from universities and learn more about the university itself. And you can pick these up at career fairs and UCAS as well. So next, looking online. So you can go to university websites and have a look around there to see what they have to offer. So you can have a look at their courses, their accommodation, learn about student life, just to get that feel of whether or not you feel the university is right for you. You could perhaps maybe speak to friends or family that have been to university to find out more about the ones they attended. And also you can have a look at certain apps such as UniBuddy and Course Match, where you can speak to current students at those universities and also browse through the courses on there. So other opportunities is, which will definitely help you with your research, is to 100% attend open days. These are really, really important. And also attend taste days or masterclasses and summer schools. So this is probably the best way you're going to be able to gauge whether or not the university is right for you. So you may fall in love with a place and read about them all online and fall in love with the course, but once you're there, it just might not be the right fit for you. And this is absolutely fine. So the more places you go and visit, the better understanding you will get about what you really want from your university experience. Just be made aware that if you are looking at sites online, trying to make sure they are legitimate sites, just so you do get the correct information about the university. So a great tool to start your search is the UCAS course search. So this is where you can narrow down your course options. So you can filter the search by subject, location, and what level of entry you want to study. So because you haven't got a degree yet, you'll be looking at studying an undergraduate course. So once you click go, once you've entered the subject you want to look at, you'll be given a list of subjects for you to click through and learn more about. So let's say, for example, you're looking for a history course. So Options may come up, for example, such as BA History, or BA Military History, or BA History of Art, or BA American History. There'll be loads and loads and loads of options that will come up within that category. So there'll be lots and lots of choices to choose from, and you can click on all of them and learn more about the entry requirements, the modules, as well as the university that's providing it itself. So this is a really, really great tool to start. So Course Match is very, very similar to UCAS search, and it'll help you whittle down your the course search to the subject you wish to study. This app is very much like Tinder, so a course will pop up and you can either swipe left if you don't like it, or swipe right if you do like it, and then it'll be saved to your profile, sort of in a little folder, so you can always go back and have a look later on. So again, this is a really, really fab and easy tool for you to use when you're starting to look for your courses and whittling down. Another fantastic tool to use is UniBuddy. So lots and lots of universities have actually signed up for this platform, and it gives you the chance to speak to current students about their experience. So you can ask them advice on research in universities, or ask them what the university or city is really like, and anything really. They're just always around to help you if you have got any questions. I think also quite a few sites as well on UniBuddy, they offer some really exciting blogs which are written by students, which you may find useful. So they might write blogs about personal statement tips, or any cooking recipes that you may need, which maybe some of you might need if you've never cooked before. But yeah, this is one of the best ways you're going to really find out about what university is like, because who's better to ask than those who are experiencing it right now? So finally, I just wanted to finish with a couple of tips from our current students about what they found useful when researching universities. So number one is make sure you go and visit your university before starting the course. You may not get all the information you want from a prospectus. So yeah, I've touched on this before, but this is one of the most important things to do, is just go visit the university and the city. This is the place you're going to be calling home for the next 3 to 4 years, so it needs to be the right place for you. Don't worry too much about university reputation. Every university has students from all walks of life, 100%. I mean, everyone is different, and if university rankings is something that's really important to you, then that's absolutely fine. But again, don't be put off by a lower league university, because it doesn't mean you won't have a fantastic experience. If the course and the place feels right for you, then go for it. And finally, if you know anybody who has been to university previously, ask them for advice about anything you are unsure of. So this is so helpful. If you do speak to anyone who has been to university, or are currently at university, just speak to them, because they can offer so many tips and help you. So whether that's budgeting tips, or fresher week tips, or just settling into your new home, it can be really, really useful to hear about this from a first-hand experience. So that is everything from me today. I hope you found this useful. So I'll hand back to John now.
Lottie, thank you very much. A brilliant introduction in terms of research, and one tip from me, not that I know a great deal, but the sooner you start your research, the better. So important. Don't leave it. Don't do what I did back in the day and leave things to the last minute. But some brilliant resources there, Lottie. Really appreciate that. But now, if I can introduce our next speaker, and that's Charlotte, joining us from Aston University. Now, Charlotte's going to talk about degree apprenticeships, which you've probably heard a little bit about, and you hear they're getting more popular, and they sound to me as absolutely fantastic. But Charlotte is an expert on them. And with that, Charlotte, I'll pass things over to you.
So yeah, my name's Charlotte. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for hosting this, John. And I'm going to be talking to you about degree apprenticeships today. To start with, what is a degree apprenticeship exactly? At this point, normally in a in-person presentation, I would ask who knows what a degree apprenticeship is. And normally there's a mixed bag. And that's because it is a fairly new concept. So it really came around in around 2013. When all over the country, there were two different types of people that were going down the academic route and studying in the traditional form of a classroom or a lecture, and people that were going down the apprenticeship route, people that preferred work-based learning. And essentially, the degree apprenticeship form, because we found the value in both. We wanted to combine the qualification of a degree and the work-based learning of an apprenticeship. So that's where a degree apprenticeship comes from. So we believe students really do get the best of both worlds. To put it plainly, into these 4 points, you essentially choose an employer that you want to work with. In doing that, you work with that employer for the entirety of your degree apprenticeship. So this could be anywhere between 3 to 5, even more years. In doing that, you're working full-time for that employer. So you're gaining professional experience day to day. Because you are working full-time, you therefore deserve to be paid for that job. So you do earn a salary. This usually starts off at national minimum wage. However, that does go up in increments each year as you progress through your apprenticeship. You also get other benefits of working for that employer, like sick pay, holiday pay, and all the other things that you get from working for a normal job. What the degree then brings is you have to study in your own time. So after work or on weekends, you will then study through either self-study, lectures, you may even come onto campus, and a variety of different learning. This is all done in your own time, in which you might complete some assessments, some coursework, some exams, and after the full period of your apprenticeship is complete, so again 3, 4, 5, even more years, if you completed all of the exams to the level that you need to pass through the years, you will gain a full honours degree. This degree is the exact same qualification as a traditional degree. So it has the exact same value as a normal traditional route, but you've done it through a different route, through the degree apprenticeship. You will still get to graduate, so you will still get to wear the hat and the robe, but that always gets asked as a question. You will still get to have that graduation ceremony. But the best part is you have a debt-free degree. So this degree is paid for by the employer that you choose to work with and the UK government. So you will graduate after that whole time with a full honours degree. You will have gained professional experience from working with that employer day to day. And you will earn, as you're learning, you'll earn salary year on year, which you can spend on whatever you like, because your degree is debt-free. So you do not have to pay any of it. And I think that's a really nice way to summarise what a degree apprenticeship is. So here are some course examples. So these are some of the ones that we offer at Aston University, but I do know for a fact that nearly every single, in fact, all the universities present here today offer degree apprenticeships. So if you are interested in any specific courses, do pop them into the chat, direct them at specific universities. I'm sure they'll be more than happy to answer any questions. But these are some of the examples that we offer at Aston. So we were actually one of the original universities for degree apprenticeships, and we do offer at the minute 12 level 6 degree apprenticeships. One thing that I want you to look at when you're looking at these courses is how specific they are. So it's not like going to the traditional route where you might do things like English or history or maths. What you're doing when you choose a degree apprenticeship is you're being trained to do a specific job. Therefore, we're going to train you to do a specific job through a specific course. So as with something like history or English, you'll study that subject area, and then after studying different modules, you'll then progress into a career into the area that you're particularly interested in. We're starting you early by getting you on a specific course to train you to do that job so you can become an expert in that job. And as you can see as well, there's a variety of different courses available depending on which area you're interested in. So you could go down the engineering route, you could go down the business route. And within business, there's lots of different examples. You know, there's marketing, there's supply chain, or you could go down the healthcare route like audiology. There's lots of different varieties out there. You've just got to choose one that might suit you. But one thing to really, really bear in mind if you are considering a degree apprenticeship is, because it's so specific, you do have to have a passion for that area. So you almost do have to have quite a bit of confidence that this area is something you're interested in doing, because not only are you going to be completing it for however long, it is a very, unlike the traditional route, which will allow you to open more doors in terms of career pathways, this is a lot more specific. Saying that, you know, as will all your parents, teachers, anybody that's in the world of work now, don't feel like if you're going to choose a specific career path, that's it. You've got to commit to that for, you know, the rest of your life. There is a lot of flexibility, but it is just something to bear in mind. So here are some examples of employers. So one thing that you will have to understand is that a degree apprenticeship isn't just, oh, I'm going to go and work for that company over there and complete a degree in my spare time. It's a structured program. So you have to choose a course and a company that are partnered together. So here are some of the examples of companies that we work with at Aston, and I'm sure many of the other universities work with them as well. Some of them you'll recognise, for example, Microsoft, a really, really big company, the NHS. Others, not so much. So GSTL is actually a department within the Ministry of Defence. So that's a really, really cool company. And I know for a fact some of the engineers that work there actually sign a disclosure to say they're not allowed to tell us what they do in their day-to-day job, which I think sounds pretty cool. You've got large companies like Capgemini, who have a lot of our IT aspiring courses. Mondelez, they own Cadbury's. So a lot of variety of companies here. And the one thing, the big message from this slide is that they're all big, recognizable brands. So in terms of your CV and that recognition, it does look incredible to have this experience on your CV, especially at such a young age. It does also mean that with a degree apprenticeship, you have the opportunity to progress through this company afterwards. So because they are large companies, there tends to be a lot of progression opportunities. And with a degree apprenticeship, you are guaranteed a job after graduating. So in terms of that, you are, there's a bundle of different promotional opportunities to progress in different directions throughout these companies. So how do they work exactly? So this is just a rough guidance of how they work in terms of weekly and yearly. So you will have to do self-study time. In that regard, you do have to be quite proactive and independent. You will have roughly around 5 hours of self-study and 5 hours of teaching time. Some of this teaching is done virtually. So for example, we use Blackboard as our learning environment, virtual learning environment. Other universities will use different platforms, but the reason we do a lot of teaching online is to allow you that flexibility. So everything will be recorded. So, if you finish work late on a Tuesday and you don't really fancy doing any study at that time, you can push it back. And it does mean that you can balance your time and create your own schedule that works best for you. However, some of the teaching time may be on campus. Particularly some of the practical based subjects, you may want to use some of the facilities or the equipment. And roughly you're talking about 80% of the time working, it might be a 9-to-5 job, Monday to Friday, and 20% of the time is studying. So that's the whole degree apprenticeship really summed up. In terms of a yearly, you are expected to do some sort of exams, assignments, coursework. Not every degree apprenticeship will require you to do every single one. So if you're sat there thinking, I hate written exams, really don't like them, then look for a degree apprenticeship course that does coursework based things, that does presentations, alternatives to those written exams. But you will have time to study for them and prepare for coursework deadlines. The employer that you've chosen to work with wants you to do well. They want you to pass, so they're going to give you that time to study. And I think this final slide is just a great, well, not so final slide, is a great comparison for you. So if you're sat there thinking, oh gosh, university is such a great option, degree apprenticeships is such a good option, really don't know which one to go with, this is a really great tool to kind of compare. One thing I will say is there is no better option. It's really down to you and what you want. So for example, if you are someone that is really ambitious, wants to get onto the career ladder and start earning money, a degree apprenticeship could be a really good option for you. As I mentioned, you are guaranteed a job upon graduating. You do get paid a salary and you are working day to day. Whereas if you are sat there going, I don't really know what I want to do yet, a traditional route might be the best option for you because it does give you that time to really explore a subject area before deciding on a career pathway. And some of the other examples, you do get that university life when you go to university, clubs and societies, study abroad opportunities, placement years. So it really, really just depends on what you value and what you're looking for in terms of your university experience. So where can you find about vacancies? The Apprenticeships website is a really great tool to use to look for current live vacancies. However, every HEI here will have a page on their university website to cover the courses that they offer, the vacancies that are available through the employers that they are partnered with as well. One quick tip I will finish off with is saying that if you know for a fact, you've looked at this and gone, oh my gosh, I'd love to work at Microsoft, then I'd recommend going and looking on the Microsoft website, looking on their social media and have a look at when their applications open and the courses that they offer. Whereas if you're sat there going, oh gosh, I really want to be an engineer, but I don't really care which employer I go with, I want to explore my options, then the best option is to go to the university website, and that will outlay all the partners that we offer. So there's two different ways of research there. Really just depends on where your mindset is at. I'll now pass back to John, and thank you again.
Right then, we're going to now move on to the application process. So we've looked at researching, we've looked at reasons to consider university, we've looked at a student perspective of the West Midlands, we've got the East Midlands later on to come. We've also looked at degree apprenticeships. So now we're going to think about university applications and what to expect when you apply, and also what to expect after you apply as well. And with that, I'll pass to Rachel at Birmingham City University. Rachel, over to you.
So hi everyone, my name is Rachel and I work at Birmingham City University. So over the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to try and help you get your head around the university application process. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at how do you actually apply to university, and we're going to look at some useful dates to be aware of, and then also what to expect once you have submitted your application. So let's start with, how do you actually apply to university? So anyone wishing to apply to uni in the UK does so through UCAS, and UCAS stands for Universities and Colleges Admission Service. So recently UCAS have actually got a new platform, it's called the UCAS Hub. So anyone wishing to apply for a course starting in 2022 has to register on the UCAS Hub. So you basically set up an account and that is how you apply. It's also a really good place to start your research for universities, so you can explore different universities, look at what they have to offer, and also explore lots of different courses. There's lots of tools on there where you can kind of highlight your favourites and do lots of research. You'll also use the hub to actually submit and then track your application. So it's really easy because UCAS have put everything in the one place. So what we're going to do before we actually dive into kind of looking at the ins and outs of the application process, we're just going to take a look at some of the key dates to be aware of. Now, the dates that are on this slide is all looking at entry for 2022. So this is if you were looking to start a course in September of 2022. So the first date to be aware of is actually this year. So the 7th of September this year is the first day that you can submit a completed application to UCAS. So before that day, you can be already working on your application. You can have set up your account in the UCAS Hub, working on it, but then from the 7th of September, that's when you'll be able to send it off. The next date to be aware of is the 26th of January 2022. So that is the final deadline for the majority of all courses. So you have to meet this deadline to basically be given guaranteed consideration that the universities will, look at your application and consider your application. If you apply after that deadline, you run the risk that they might not consider your application. You might have noticed on this slide, I've also got a slightly earlier date there, so the 15th of October. So if you're interested in studying at Oxford or Cambridge, or for certain subjects, so medicine, dentistry, veterinary medicine or veterinary science, there is that earlier deadline of the 15th of October. So it's just worth being aware of that if you do want to study at one of those universities or for one of those subject areas. And then a couple of other dates on this slide as well, just kind of focusing on after you've submitted your application. So around May 2022, that is when universities have to get back to you by with their offers. And then around June in 2022, that is when you would have to get back to the universities, kind of selecting your first choice and your second choice options. And I'll explain that in a little bit more detail in the next few slides. And then the last date to be aware of is results day. So August 2022, when it's results day, that's obviously when you would find out if you've definitely got a place at university or not. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of jump in to actually looking at the application, so submitting an application and just kind of talking through the steps of that. So as I said, you have to register on the UCAS Hub, you'll have an account and you will have signed in. And on the slide here, I've just got a kind of screenshot of sort of what you would see when you log into the UCAS Hub. So it's really simple. To start your application, there'll be a tile that says your applications and you click the start button to begin. So nice and easy to start with. Now, if your school or college are helping you with your application, then it's really important that you link your application to your school or your college. And basically you do this by using what's called a buzzword, and that is, it's basically just like a code that your school have, and they will be able to provide you with that so that you can definitely link your application back to them. And when we say link the application, basically all that means is just that your school or college will then have permission to view your application. They'll be able to track the progress of it as well. And they'll also be able to submit your reference, and then they can send your application off to UCAS on your behalf. So that's a really important step if, you know, your school or your college are helping you with that application. All right, so the next thing that I want to look at is just kind of showing you the different sections that you have to complete as part of your application. So I know that this looks like a lot of information on one slide, and yes, there are lots of different sections that you have to complete, but don't worry, you don't have to do it in one go. You can save your progress as you go and just do it in small steps. So it's not too big of a task to do in one go. So I'm not going to run through all of these sections because a lot of them are quite self-explanatory, but I'm just going to focus on a few key areas. So when you get to the section where you're submitting your choices, there's a few things just to be aware of. So you can have up to five options, 5 courses, and basically it's kind of up to you how you do it. So you might decide to choose the same course at 5 different universities, or you might decide to do different courses at the same university. So it's up to you, but you've got a total of 5 choices. If you're applying to Oxford or Cambridge, you can only apply to one course at either Oxford or Cambridge. So it's slightly different for those universities, so that's just worth being aware of. And also those courses that I mentioned earlier, so medicine, dentistry, veterinary medicine or veterinary science, you can only apply to one of those courses at 4 different universities, and then your 5th choice would have to be a different course. Also, for personal statements, I know someone else is going to touch on personal statements in a lot more detail, but just to mention that you can only have one personal statement, so it has to be relevant for all of those courses that you apply for. Okay, so we're now going to kind of move and look at what happens after you apply. So you've submitted your application on the UCAS Hub. What is next? So the UCAS Hub is great because, as I said, you know, everything's all in the one place. So you can also track your applications on the same platform. So you can look at the progress of your application and see all that information that you've submitted, and then you'll also view and reply to your offers on that same UCAS Hub. Okay, so the first kind of step with, you know, after you've applied is receiving offers from the universities. So basically when a university gets your application, they review it against the entry requirements for the course. And there are sort of three responses that you could get. So an unconditional, a conditional, or an unsuccessful. Now, unconditional, this would be if you've already met the entry requirements for the course. So you would get that unconditional offer. So say you've sat your exams, you've already got your results, you meet the entry requirements. Basically, that means you've got an unconditional, the place is yours if you choose to accept it. The next option would be a conditional. So this would be if, you know, you were waiting for your exam results and you would get offered that conditional offer. And this basically just means that the offer is based on your predicted grades, and then you'd have to meet those grades in order to definitely get offered that place. And then the third option is unsuccessful. And obviously that just means that the university have unfortunately decided not to offer you a place on the course. Now, if you're not accepted by any of the universities that you apply to, or if for some reason you decide to decline the offers that you have received, there are still options. There's a service called UCAS Extra, and you can basically use that to apply for other choices. Now, you can only apply for one course at a time, but it's all within the UCAS Hub. So UCAS Extra, you'll be able to access that through the UCAS Hub. All right, so the next step is, obviously you've had those offers, now you need to respond to those offers. So basically you have to pick your first and your second choice. So we refer to it as your firm choice and your insurance choice. So your first choice should be a course that you believe you can meet the entry requirements for, and it should be a university that you really want to go to. Now, if you've been given an unconditional offer, then that firm choice, that is yours. The course is yours, you're sorted. If your firm choice is a conditional offer and where you're kind of waiting for your exam results to see if you meet those requirements, then you should also pick what's called your insurance choice, your second choice. And that's basically your backup option in case you don't meet the entry requirements for your first choice. So it's worth kind of bearing in mind that it's probably sensible that your second choice has slightly lower entry requirements than your first choice. Now, you can only hold 2 offers at any time, so you would then have to decline any other offers that you receive. And the last stage is obviously just finding out if you've definitely got that place or not. So as I said, remember, if your firm choice, your first choice, was an unconditional offer, you're sorted, the place is yours. But if it was a conditional, then basically what happens is the university update the status of the offer once you have your exam results. So if you met the conditions, then it would change from a conditional to an unconditional, the place is yours. If you didn't meet the entry requirements for your first choice, but you met them for your second choice, then obviously your second choice would then do the same. It would change from conditional to unconditional, and you would then have that as your place. Now, there are options as well. Don't worry, if you don't meet the entry requirements, you can explore options through clearing, where basically they can match applicants to university places that haven't been filled. And also, on the other hand, if you exceed the entry requirements, so maybe you get better exam results than you thought, you can explore courses with higher entry requirements through a service called adjustment. So there's options either way. All right, so that is it from me. That was a whistle-stop tour through the university application process. Thank you very much for listening. And my top advice would definitely be just to register on that UCAS hub. Lots of information on there, and it's the best place to get started. And then obviously that is where you'll submit your application as well. So yeah, thank you very much for listening, and I will pass back to John now.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Another brilliant session looking at the application process, not just what you need to do as part of the application process, but actually, crucially, what happens after you apply as well. So big thank you to Rachel at BCU. Now, linking very nicely on from that, we've got a session now from Georgie looking at the top tips when it comes to personal statements and the things that you might wish to include and some models you might wish to consider, and much, much more. And I know what's coming, so I know how good it is. So with that, Georgie, I'll pass it over to you, please.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you very much, everybody, for joining us this evening. So what I'm going to do for the next 10 minutes is just cover everything that you should include in your personal statements, some do's and some don'ts, and give you some facts around it as well. This does normally, or can normally, take me up to an hour to deliver this presentation, so it will be a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but all of my colleagues from across the universities will be more than happy to answer any kind of course-specific questions about your personal statement as well. So why is the personal statement important? So you all saw that it is part of the application process. So just to add a bit of background to why you have to write a personal statement with your application, it is your chance to provide the evidence for the skills needed for the course that you are planning on studying. So everywhere else in your UCAS application is just kind of documents and data about you, your personal information, and the courses that you are planning on studying. So this is your chance to tell us about you. We want to see your interest in the subject. So there are lots of different courses out there that you can study. So why are you choosing that particular subject area? We want to see that you are committed. We want you to succeed. We want you to complete your degree program. We want you to do well. So we want to see that commitment that you're going to come and study with us and complete your degree program. And it is also your opportunity to stand out from the crowd. What makes you different to everybody else? So this is what the personal statement page looks like on that UCAS hub that you just saw. So when you click on start your personal statement, and we absolutely recommend that you do not start on this page because you will be here for ages before you ever write anything. So we always recommend typing it up in a word processing software first, and that way you can save it, you can print it off, you can send it to people to proofread and to check, and then when you're ready you can just copy and paste it over. And the really great thing is down the bottom grayed out there, you can see there's a save and preview, and you can actually look to see what it looks like and then press complete when you're done. So absolutely do not start here. But to give you a couple of facts about the personal statement, you can only write one personal statement. This is both a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is that you only have to write one, so you don't have to write 5 or for all your different choices. The bad thing is that if you're really stuck on what subject to choose, or you want to apply for completely different subjects, you're going to really struggle to write that one personal statement. Your personal statement can be a maximum of 4,000 characters or 47 lines, whichever comes first. To put that into perspective, we're looking at about a side of A4. And there is now a minimum, so it is a minimum of 1,000 characters, but obviously you want to try and max that out as much as possible. So we're not looking for too much, just that one side of A4. Do keep a copy of your personal statement. You'll spend lots of time on your personal statement. It's a really great writing tool for cover letters, for CVs when you get to university applying for jobs, but also if you do get invited to an interview. Depending on the type of interview, you might get asked questions around your personal statement. So it's always handy to be able to kind of refer back to it before you go. Everything is processed online, so everything goes through that UCAS application hub. You never have to handwrite it or send anything in the post or anything like that. So don't worry if you've got bad handwriting. Everything is done online. There are no spelling or grammar checks anywhere throughout UCAS. So again, why we recommend putting it into Word first. You can spell check it, you can proofread it, and then you can copy and paste it over to make sure you haven't got any spelling mistakes in your personal statement. There is a similarity detection software, so unfortunately, if you're thinking of just downloading somebody else's or copying your older brothers or sisters, that's not going to work out too well for you. This is your personal statement. We want to see your writing, we want to see you on that piece of paper. You can't use any bold, underlining or italics. Unfortunately, you can't do any kind of fancy subheadings or subtitles, anything like that. Or you can't put, the most important things in bold. That will all disappear when you copy and paste it over. And you do apply through UCAS, not to universities directly. So when you submit your UCAS application, it actually goes to UCAS and then UCAS send it to the university. So we always recommend that you don't mention a specific university within your personal statement, because all 5 of your choices will receive that same personal statement. So what you need to cover in your personal statement. Now I'm going to give you a list of all the things that you can cover. Some of you won't necessarily need to cover all of these, and some of you might be able to. But I will go through them all for you. So first of all, we want to know your reasons for choosing the course or subject. So why are you choosing that particular subject, course, degree program, career, anything like that? We want to know why you've picked that one. What you enjoy in any related subjects now. So if you are currently studying chemistry at school and you're going to come and study chemistry at university, what areas of chemistry is it that you really enjoy? And you can tell us about what it is that you're looking for studying or learning a little bit more about from your current studies. Any career goals, again, this is a really great one to show your commitment. If you have somewhere where you want to end up, if you know this degree is going to take you to a specific career, tell us where you would like to end up, where you want your university degree to get you to. Any interests or hobbies. Now, this isn't where we want to hear about how you like playing football with your mates in your spare time, unfortunately, but any interests or hobbies related to your university degree or just kind of general university kind of living and lifestyle as well. So maybe that independence, your time management, your teamwork and communication skills, anything like that. If you've had a position of responsibility at school, so maybe you're a head boy or a head girl, or you've helped out at an open evening, things like that, you can tell us about the skills that you have gained from those. Now, any work experience and employment. Now, there are a number of courses out there that do ask for work experience, and it does need to be documented in your personal statement. And these are usually the courses that lead into specific careers, things like medicine, dentistry, nursing, teaching, social work, physiotherapy, to name a few. Now, we do understand that there has been a global pandemic going on, and we do understand that it has been very difficult to gain some work experience. So universities are listing on their websites what they will accept in lieu of that work experience where it has not been possible. But also other universities are looking for students that are able to think outside the box with their work experience or volunteering. So maybe you've got some online work experience or volunteering, helping maybe with like a mental health charity, and you're being a first responder to messages, things like that. So do think outside the box when it comes to work experience and maybe having a part-time job or any volunteering. But if you are a little bit worried because your degree program does usually ask for work experience and you haven't been able to get any because of the current situation, then do check the university's website specifically to make sure you document in your personal statement what they are looking for where that hasn't been possible. Any skills you have that are relevant to the course. Again, these can be skills that you've learned at school, in your classes, in your A-level subjects, anything like that. If you're going for a practical-based course, tell us about your practical skills that you have. And what we really want to see is your motivation, commitment, and enthusiasm. We want to see that you're motivated, you're going to turn up every day. You're committed, you're going to turn up every day for those 3, 4, 5, 7 years, and you're going to be enthusiastic about it. You're going to put your hand up, you're going to get involved, you're going to be an active student. And that's really what we would like to see in your personal statement. Now, it is really important that we don't just end up with a massive list. And what we can sometimes see in personal statements is where students just say, I did this, I've done that, I've also done this, and I've done that. But what we really want to see is just less of that list, but telling us what you got out of it. And there's a really great way to remember this, and we call it the ABC method. And this is kind of how it works. So a good personal statement will tell us what you have done to make it better. You will tell us the skills it has given you, and then the best personal statements will relate it back to your course. And you have your activity, the benefit, and the course, and that gives you your ABC. Now, the key thing to remember here is when you are telling us your benefit, you make sure you list a different skill each time. So things that you can also talk about in your personal statement, any university taster day or lecture. So anything that you have attended that has been an academic lecture, you can definitely talk about those. Any documentaries, so yes, you can talk about something you've seen on TV, just make sure it is factual, based on real life, is not made up. Any current affairs and news stories, a lot of degree programs are based around what is happening at the moment, how to deal with your subject in the real world. So talking about current affairs and news stories can be really good in a personal statement. Again, any journals or articles, so any piece of writing, as long as it's factual, true, real story. And then again, you can also talk about recent experiences or influences, but what we don't like to see is a really long story about what happened, but you just telling us what happened and then telling us how you've done your further research or how it's kind of enlightened you to study the course that you want to study at university. So do create a list of ideas before starting. So do write them down on paper, list all the things that you want to talk about. You don't need to tell us about your weaknesses. You don't need to tell us what you're not very good at. So only focus on your strengths. And you are going to have to produce several drafts. The average is somewhere between 5 and 7 drafts of your personal statement. I actually did 12 because I'm really bad at spelling. So don't get too disheartened if you have to do a couple of drafts. Do ask people for feedback, get people to read your personal statement, make sure it sounds like you, and do some research into the courses and the universities that you are applying to. There will be common modules, common things that you'll be studying on the course that you can link to in your personal statement. And do check your punctuation, spelling and grammar, and check it 100 times. So what we don't want to see, don't use words you don't understand. This is your personal statement, your personality, your writing style. We want to see you. Talk about relevant things. So again, going off on a tangent or talking about your teammate, Jimmy. We don't need to know about him. Lie. There shouldn't be any need to lie in your personal statement. And again, remember, if you are going to interview, they're going to be talking to you about things that you've mentioned in your personal statement. The opposite to the do. So again, don't talk about your negatives or your weaknesses. And finally, leave it too late. Okay, this can be quite a stressful piece of writing to have to do. So do start on it nice and early. Get your research done and get it in nice and early. And then finally, as we've already mentioned, don't copy or download any personal statement either. that is everything from me. I appreciate that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but hopefully that really helped. And I'll now hand back to John.
Georgie, thank you very much. A great guide to personal statements. I'm a massive fan of the ABC method as well. It makes writing personal statements, in my opinion, so much easier. Activity, benefit, course. Really, really good model. Don't just stick to all the activities. Right then, if I can now pass on to our next speaker, please. But just before I do, I just want to take stock of where we are. So we're having during this evening 9 presentations. We've had 6 of them, 6 fantastic sessions, and now we've got 3 to go. So we've got Alex. I'll introduce Alex in a second, talking about studying in the East Midlands, and then we're going to move on to the biggest barrier in terms of university, and that's fees and finance. So we've got a session from Sean from the University of Nottingham, and Sean's going to look at the fees and finance broadly, and then last but certainly not least, Keele University and Matt will be doing a session looking at budgeting. But now I'm going to pass things over to Alex, joining us from Derby University. Alex is going to do a session on experiences studying in the East Midlands. Alex, over to you, please.
Good evening, everyone. Obviously, thanks for sticking around. Some great presentations so far. So hopefully, as we're going through this as well, I can sort of build on similar things to what Ellie was mentioning about studying in the West Midlands, but put in a bit of a slant of the East Midlands as well. But what I'm going to focus on today is just sort of talking a bit about living and studying in the East Midlands. I'm going to talk a bit about student life and city life as well, and sort of touch a bit on graduate prospects, but hopefully not in too much depth, just to give you a bit of a whistle-stop tour of what the East Midlands is all about. So let's start off in terms of the East Midlands itself. It is a very sort of broad region within the UK. So there's certainly a lot of universities that fit into that East Midlands bracket. Obviously, some of those are here tonight, and obviously there's plenty more as well in terms of, as you can see on the screen, from 6 sort of major areas, sort of cities and towns spread across East Midlands, which means you've got a lot of choice really in terms of thinking, if you did want to study in the East Midlands, where to pick to ultimately go and study. So myself, I lived in the East Midlands. I was someone similar to what Ellie was saying. I wanted to stay quite local when I chose university. So I did study at Derby, but also I did appreciate that these other universities, so Nottingham, Leicester, Loughborough, Lincoln and Northampton, weren't too far away from where I currently live. So there were certainly options in terms of trying to consider where I choose to study and whether they did the course that I was interested in and that sort of thing as well. So a few things to consider when you have got such a wide range of universities to pick from is start to think about how that university differs, what the different places are like to live, because chances are living in Derby or living in Leicester or living in Lincoln will be slightly different. Each sort of place within the East Midlands has its own sort of unique selling points. So certainly do consider that. And start to try and think, is that going to be somewhere that sort of benefits me in terms of if you want to stay local, if you're commuting, do they have facilities and that kind of thing as well. So certainly doing a bit of research around what other universities offer within that region. There's a lot of very good universities in the East Midlands. Obviously, I work for Derby, so I might have a slight bias in terms of which university I'm sort of going to be talking about throughout the slides, but certainly other universities within the region are fantastic. So certainly do some research, try and figure out which university is going to be best for you, and sort of try and focus on some of the other things which have been covered in the other sessions as well, in terms of hopefully trying to make that decision a bit easier for you. So yeah, in terms of what I was saying, so city life is one of those that across the East Midlands, there's a lot of different cities, a lot of places that you can get involved in, and chances are, obviously I'm going to talk a bit about Derby, but whether it's Nottingham, whether it's Leicester, whether it's Lincoln, they will all have very similar offers in terms of facilities there, social life, that kind of thing, but all with their slight quirks and slight differences as well. So certainly, if you are interested in studying in the East Midlands, do visit the cities as well. So when we sort of advise you to go on open days, don't just go and visit the campus, go and have a tour of the city, go and see what it's like, because ultimately, yes, you are going and studying at that university for 3, 4, 7 years, however long it might be, but you're also living in that city as well, you're living in that place. So in terms of city life, pretty much whatever you can imagine that city will have. So whether it's culture, whether it's music and entertainment, so things from such as cinemas, theatres, festivals. It's all things which you will have access to in that particular city. So I know at Derby we've got our quad, which is sort of linked in around culture and art and music. I know obviously across other cities within the East Midlands is stuff like Lincoln Cathedral, De Montfort Hall. There's like the Motorport Arena in Nottingham, which is a bit more in terms of like a venue. So if you're going to see live acts. And in terms of like music and festivals, we've got Download Festival, which is just outside or sort of in Donington, so near East Midlands Airport, so quite local to both Derby, Nottingham and Leicester. So there's certainly lots of things which hopefully can be of benefit for you. And it doesn't just necessarily have to be that sort of social scene as well. So we're quite fortunate within the East Midlands that we have the Peak District National Park quite close. So again, that is something which, whilst it's not necessarily living in the city, you are close enough to go into the Peak District National Park if that's something that particularly interests you. Similar with sport, I'm not going to go into sort of going through various different teams because I'm sure that may cause arguments or there might be biases in terms of whether it's Nottingham Forest or Derby County. I'm certainly not wanting to start any arguments like that, but there's a lot of passionate sports people within the East Midlands and a lot of high-level sports teams. So whether it's across stuff like football, cricket, basketball, rugby union, ice hockey, which obviously you can go and watch, but then also it's more around those participation sports as well and sort of facilities available for you to be able to access. So stuff like, for example, Derby Velodrome or Home Pierpont in Nottingham, where it's sort of a national water sports centre. So again, it's going through and trying to think what interests you, what hobbies do you have that actually can that be provided for me living in the East Midlands? And I do feel it's one of those that even if it's not necessarily in the city that you go to study in, it's close enough in the East Midlands that you can get to it as well. From a university perspective, as I mentioned, there's some world leading sort of universities and facilities across the region. In relation to sport, we've got 3 universities that are in the top 15 in terms of the Bucks Championship, so the British University and College of Sports, including the top 2 universities. So again, if you are a particularly sporty person, you think that's something I want to get involved in, certainly the East Midlands is a great location for that. And again, each university can sort of go through in terms of facilities that they've got to offer. Universities are sort of investing a lot of money in their campuses and facilities to hopefully give students the best possible experience when they're studying there. So in terms of transport and living, it's sort of similar to what Ellie mentioned about the West Midlands, actually, that where we are situated, it means that we're quite close to cities such as London, Manchester, Birmingham, sort of in a variety of sort of 30 minutes to 90 minutes away from those. So it does mean that you can get to a lot of places quite quickly. It does also mean that if you are maybe moving away from home, that you may be able to get back home sooner than you think, whether it's going by train, using sort of the M1, or whether it's potentially even looking at international travel with airports that are quite close as well. In terms of the cities themselves, like I said, I can only talk about Derby, but we feel that our city is quite connected in terms of you've got the transport links for students to be able to get around from campuses to halls of residence to attractions within city. And obviously you've got those links out to the other cities as well. So it's certainly something to bear in mind. One of the other things which can be of benefit in terms of city life and sort of studying in a region is where you're going to live. So I'm not going to go into too much detail in terms of the various different aspects, but you've got stuff like on-campus living. So that means you will be living in halls of residence at that particular university, and some universities within the East Midlands do offer that, where you can literally go from your flat to your lecture within a couple of minutes. Quite a lot of universities in the East Midlands do city living. So us at Derby, we do that in terms of our halls of residence aren't located on the campus of the university, but it's more in the city centre. So you get that vibe of sort of living in a city, being able to access those facilities. You also have stuff like private accommodation and potentially living from home. So as I mentioned, there's so many universities on the doorstep in the East Midlands that if you are someone that lives in the East Midlands, you've got a pretty good choice to be able to think about staying at home and commuting to one of those universities. that we mentioned. So whether it's in Derby, whether it's in Nottingham or Leicester. So I'm going to very quickly touch on graduate prospects. It is one of those that, as a region, there's a lot of employment around there, so it's certainly something to bear in mind. And it is a growing region as well, so there's lots of top companies within the East Midlands, such as Rolls-Royce, Toyota, Boots, Next, all companies that will be wanting graduate roles. So it might be that you think, actually, yes, that's perfect for me. For example, if you're wanting to study engineering, Rolls-Royce, that's fantastic. But even if you may be thinking of a degree that isn't related to one of those bigger companies, the fact that they are based in the East Midlands shows that people want to study here, people want to have their businesses here. So there's a lot of money within the East Midlands. There's lots of opportunities as well, and certainly is one of those that, similar to the West Midlands, the cost of living in the East Midlands is relatively low. And again, there's quite a few cities from the East Midlands which are in the top 15 nationally in terms of disposable income as well. So it's something that generally cost of living is pretty good. Graduate salary is high within the East Midlands in terms of, I know, for example, Derby is one of the best cities in terms of that starting graduate salary, and a couple of other cities in the East Midlands are the same as well. So that's certainly something to consider sort of post-degree in terms of what your options are going to be like as well. I'm just going to very quickly sort of wrap up. One of the biggest things which I would say if you are looking at studying in the East Midlands is going on open days. Obviously, I work for Derby, so we've got our open day coming up, but I know lots of other universities will have open days as well. And fingers crossed in the not too distant future, we'll be more back to physical open days where you can come on campus, you can come to the city and have a look around. As I said, I lived in the East Midlands, I studied in the East Midlands, I now work in the East Midlands. I think it's a fantastic place to be. And I'm sure plenty of my colleagues, either on the call right now or at other universities, would agree. So certainly, if it is something that interests you, come along, have a look. There is quite a mixture of universities in the East Midlands as well. So hopefully, across our various different cities, there will be one that sort of fits what you're looking for, and would be a great place for you to study.
Alex, thank you very much. Really, really useful session looking at the East Midlands, but and also just to reinforce what Alex said about open days. I completely agree. Open days are such a great experience, whether it's virtual, whether it's attending events like this or seeing stuff on campus. Do try and attend as many as you can. You really get a feel for the area as well. We're now going to move on to student fees and finance, and no pressure, Sean, but this pretty much wherever you look is the biggest barrier to university. So often students will say they're interested in university, but the biggest worry they've got is fees and finance. And if you speak to most schools, they'll say the reason that more students don't go to university is because they're so worried about the cost of doing so. I can see Sian's already got her slides up. She's ready to go. So with that, I'll pass to Sian at the University of Nottingham.
Thank you, John. So thanks everyone for listening and for sticking with us through all these talks, still being here to listen and find out more information. So I'm going to be covering student finance. So I'm going to go through the key information, kind of key headlines with relation to student finance. So firstly, in terms of what support is available to you as someone who's going to university. So firstly, you've got help from the government in terms of the student loans, and there is two separate loans. There's a tuition fee loan to cover the cost of your tuition fees, and there's a maintenance loan to assist you with your living costs, so other costs outside of your course. I'll also, however, touch on other help that might be available, including some additional help from the government, like grants and allowances for disabled students, but also help from universities themselves in the form of bursaries and scholarships. So those are really important to research because those, unlike loans, are not repayable after you finish university. So starting off with the student loan side and how much can you borrow if you're going to university? So firstly, with regards to the tuition fee loan, you can apply for a tuition fee loan through Student Finance England, and you can apply for this each year that you want to kind of continue and study at university. So it doesn't matter if your course is a 3-year course or a 4-year course. And this is also not means tested. So the phrase means tested or not means tested means it doesn't matter what your household income is. So even if you're from a very high income household, you'd still be able to borrow up to £9,250 a year, which is the tuition fee that most universities currently charge in England. Now, that is the tuition fee and the tuition fee loan amount for 2021-22. So we only get these figures a year at a time. So that's based on what the figures are now, and you'll find that repeated throughout the presentation. When you apply for your tuition fee loan, the money is actually paid directly to the university by Student Finance England. So you don't actually see that come through your bank account as the student, which means you don't have to worry about paying that on time so long as your student finance application goes off on time. Now, this works slightly different to the maintenance loan. So this is the other loan that you can apply for if you want to. This loan is partially means tested. So what does that mean? There's a minimum amount that any student is entitled to, so provided they have UK or home fee status. So regardless of household income, there's a minimum amount that you'll receive. But in order to receive above that amount or to get the maximum allowance, then they look at household income. And household income can depend on your personal circumstances, who you live with. It could depend on both parents, one parent, a parent and their partner. But for most students, they will look at household or family income unless you have no contact with your parents, in which you'd be considered as an estranged student, which is a slightly different process. The amount you receive depends on a range of factors. So I've already mentioned household income, but it also depends on whether you're going to be living at home or living at university, and also where you study in the country. And the differences tend to be whether you're studying in London or outside of London. This loan is paid into your bank account at the start of each term. So this actually comes to you. So you'll have to listen carefully to Matt's talk after this about how to budget that money until your next instalment comes in at the start of the following term. And this is your money to spend on what you want to spend it on, but importantly, to spend it on what you need. So if you're relying on your maintenance loan to pay for your accommodation or rent or bills or transport, it's really important that you budget effectively, which is what the final talk today will be about. Now, in terms of how much you'd be able to borrow for maintenance loan, these are the amounts that students who are starting this September will be able to borrow. So they might change slightly by the time you apply if you're looking at 2022 entry or later. So as you can see, there's 3 different caps, and I must emphasize these are the maximum amounts you might be entitled to. So if you're studying and living at home, so living in the family home and commuting to university, you could be entitled to up to £7,987. If you're going to be studying outside of London and living away from the family home, so living at university or in the local city, it's up to £9,488. That's for the year. And then you can see at the bottom, there's a higher rate or a higher cap if you're thinking of studying in London, because of the higher living costs associated with London compared to other regions in the UK. Now, I mentioned that this is household income dependent, so you'd only receive those maximum caps that you can see there on the top row of the table if your household income is £25,000 per year or below. As your household income increases, then the amount of loan or the maximum amount of maintenance loan you're entitled to decreases. But importantly, if you look at the lower rows of the table, so you can see the bottom 2 rows, they're the same amount for home and elsewhere, but they do change for London. So even if you're from a high income household, so over 75,000, you still get at least those minimum amounts on the bottom row. So any student living at home and commuting to university will get at least £3,516. If they're studying outside of London and living away from home, at least £4,422. If your household income sits in the middle, then it will be calculated based on that, and you'll sit somewhere in the middle of that table. So that is the maintenance loan rates, but again, that is for 2021-22. So it's really important that you check the student finance pages on the gov.uk website closer to the time that you're going to university for the most up-to-date figures, because they do change, and the pattern over the last few years has been a slight increase each year in line with inflation. So if you want to apply for a tuition fee loan and or a maintenance loan, You apply online the year you're starting university. So if you wanted to start in September 2022, you'd apply in spring 2022, and you do that through the gov.uk website. You can apply before you've received or accepted your offers. So you don't need to know definitely which university you're going to study at. You can put on your form the one you think you're going to be at, and you can always change and update that later if your plans change. It's really important that you get your application off by the deadline. So when it's coming up to the time of applying, check the gov.uk student finance website, make a note of the application deadline. It usually sits around May. I think it's 21st of May this year, but it does change a little bit every year. And if you miss the deadline, there's no guarantee that your loans will come in on time. So that could affect paying your accommodation, tuition fees being paid on time. So I really do stress that you make every effort you can to apply nice and early. Don't leave it till the last minute right up to the deadline. Now, in terms of loan repayment, so myself, and I'm sure all of the other speakers here today, if they've studied at university, kind of have student loans. So, and I think there's a big stigma around having a student debt. So I want to talk through how loan repayments work to hopefully reassure you that it's not a scary debt like it is borrowing money from a bank in another way. Repayments for student loans only start once you earn over a certain amount, and that threshold is currently £27,295 per year. If you graduate university and your first job doesn't meet that threshold in terms of salary, or you decide to take a gap year, or you do a low paid internship, don't pay anything back. Your repayments only begin once you earn over that amount, and if your salary drops back below that threshold, then they will stop. It's usually worked out for you and calculated and deducted all by your employer, so a bit more complicated if you're self-employed, but if you're employed, it's done for you by your employer. The amount you repay is 9% of your income over that threshold, and that threshold is currently £27,295. But again, there's been a bit of a pattern of that increasing over the past few years, so hopefully it might be even higher by the time you finish university. The other important message is, if you're coming, so several years after you graduate, if you've got loads of loan balance left, it's written off after 30 years. So your repayments would start after you graduate, the April after you graduate. 30 years later, if you've got any loan left, it's written off. No one's going to come chasing after you to pay that debt off. There's not really much benefit in paying it off in bulk, unless you think you can afford to, because it gets written off. So no one comes chasing you for that debt to pay off the balance. It's written off after 30 years. So it doesn't follow you through your whole life. Loans do occur interest though, and the rate of interest is up to 5.6%. So although you don't repay anything while you're studying, the interest starts while you're studying. So after you receive your first instalment, the interest rate is up to 5.6% while you're studying. It tends to be at that amount. After you graduate, once you're earning, the interest rate depends again on your salary and how much you're earning. But again, please don't let that put you off university or off taking out student loans, because it's so important to remember that that gets written off after 30 years. I put a table on the right hand side just to illustrate what your repayment would look like based on different graduate salaries. So obviously no repayment if you earn below the threshold. If you earn £29,000 when you graduate, you'd pay £13 a month. £35,000 a year, you'd pay £58 a month. So you can see as your salary increases, the repayment increases. So it's designed to be something that is affordable. It comes out of your salary and it's kind of calculated by your employer. It almost feels like paying a little bit of extra tax. I also want to draw your attention to something that's really important for you to research as well, which is other funding from other sources, because a lot of these that I'm going to mention now are not repayable. So these aren't loans. I'm going to focus on amounts that could be awarded to you that you wouldn't have to repay. This is free money, so it's so important that you research what you might be entitled to so you don't miss out on anything that you could have had. Now, in terms of bursaries or scholarships or grants, the amount that you might be entitled to could vary depending on the university, the subject you're studying, your personal circumstances like household income. So it's really important to have a look on UCAS and also look carefully at the websites and finance pages of the universities you're applying to, or the universities you're researching, because if they offer better bursaries or scholarships or finance for you, that might encourage you to apply to them over somewhere else you're considering. So do your research so you don't miss out. Now, in terms of bursaries and scholarships, so bursaries and scholarships are both non-repayable awards that can be made to students, and they usually come to you to help you with your living costs, so a bit of kind of extra money coming into your accounts. There's two kind of categories here, and they work in different ways. Some are non-competitive, which means there's set criteria. So it could be you need to study full time, you need to be a UK student, your household income needs to be below £35,000 a year, for example. And if you fulfill those criteria, you're awarded the money, no matter how many students on your course or at your university apply for that bursary. No matter how many of them meet those criteria, you'll be paid it. An example of that is our Nottingham core bursary, people who meet those criteria, like I've just said, under £35,000 a year household income, home students, full-time courses, etc. A lot of awards though, so lots of scholarships and other awards, some can be competitive, which means that there's not enough money for everybody. So there's a limited fund or a limited number of scholarships that the university or institution can give out. So then it tends to be more competitive. So you might have to write an application, or it might be awarded on another factor like having high grades. Or for example, with our sports scholarships at Nottingham, it tends to be awarded on sporting ability. So because it's competitive, someone who competes in a sport at national or international level is much more likely to get a scholarship than someone who just competes at a regional level, because it's competitive. Some extra funding to look up is an NHS maintenance grant. So particularly if we've got students here that are thinking of studying healthcare subjects, so nursing, midwifery, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, there's an NHS maintenance grant, so £5,000 a year for students studying that, although I must say that medicine and I also believe dentistry are excluded from that. And there's also additional help from the government. So if you've got dependents, adult dependents, if you've got children, then you might want to look in things like parents' learning allowance, childcare grants, or adult dependents grants. And also want to look up if you've got a disability, so anything from a learning difficulty, a long-term physical health condition or mental health condition. It's worth reading into disabled students allowance. So those are amounts or funds that help disabled students get all the equipment and adjustments that they need to succeed on their course. My top tips are, please do not let financial worries get in the way of applying to university. There are loans, there may be bursaries and scholarships you can apply for. Universities also have things called hardship funds. So if students are really struggling at money, they're at risk of having to drop out of university because of financial worries, there's help. Go and ask someone at the university and there may be help you can receive. So there's lots of support available from the government and from universities as well. There's also the option, if you're finding that ends can't meet, of getting a part-time job in the city, on the campus, working as a student ambassador and doing some tours, talking to some prospective students to earn a bit of money on the side. The repayments, so the student loan repayments are only payable after you leave, after you graduate, and after you're earning a certain amount. And remember that that debt is written off after 30 years. So it's not something that you permanently carry with you, like if it was a bank loan or a loan that you've taken out for something kind of in the private finance sector. But thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Sian. Another brilliant session looking at student fees and finance this time. Really massive barrier for students, but brilliant session. I particularly love the slide that Sian had that showed repayments, and £29,000, 13 quid is your monthly repayment. So thank you for that, Sian. Thanks for sharing that as well. I'm going to pass things now to Matt at Keele University for a session on budgeting before and when you're at university. Go for it, Matt.
Thanks, John, and thanks all for joining us this evening, and thanks, Sian, for all that information on student finance. So I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about budgeting. We're going to go through some top tips, but also going to have a little bit of a think of quite close to the start, you know, what you might already be doing and how you can take that forward into, you know, studying at university. So things to think about, you know, budgeting and managing your money can be tricky, but please don't let it be the big barrier to stop you going to university. There is lots of support, as Sian's just mentioned, and there's lots of, you know, like say, not only money and welfare support at university level, but government support as well. So the first thing I think that to mention is think about what you already do. So, you know, you might already sort of control a bit of a budget without actually knowing it. So, you know, do you already have a part-time job? And if you do, have you already got, you know, some things that you pay for? Maybe you've got a phone bill, maybe you've got some travel costs, maybe you're running a car. So think about, you know, how you're paying for that in terms of, you know, the money that you've got coming in. And do you already set yourself a monthly spend limit, you know, which allows you to save? Because if you do, then you're pretty much halfway there to understanding on how to budget your money. And obviously there are factors that, you know, come into it when you get to university. But if you're already on that stepping stone, it's a downhill from there if you already know how to budget. So what do you need to budget for whilst you're at university? So obviously, there are some course costs that people do forget about. So it might be that you need a lab coat if you're doing if you're doing a science subject, or, you know, some things like protective eyewear, or, you know, art materials. There's some trips that you might need to go on. You know, there might be a part of your assessments that you might need to pay for. You might find that you need to print something that you'll have to pay for as well. And, you know, any stationery that you need for your day-to-day as well. So just a few things that you need to budget for. Bills, so your accommodation, maybe you chose to live off campus and you've actually got other utility bills as well that you need to think about and factor into your budget. There's also, you know, TV license that a lot of people forget about, and insurance on all of your belongings, or if you've got, you know, travel, that, you know, if you've got a car, you need to insure that as well. Making sure that you've got money for textbooks, making sure that you've got money for travel, as we've just mentioned. You know, maybe, you know, you need to put so much money aside if you need to get a bus onto campus, or you need to get a taxi, or, you know, just depends on what your circumstances are. But making sure you've got a small amount of money put away for travel, ensuring that you've got plenty of money for food. And we're going to talk about food shopping now a little bit. But, you know, if you can't always afford to go out to eat, but always make sure that you've got your own food that you can use. And, you know, you've got to make sure you've got some money for a social life as well. You know, socializing is huge for mental health, and it's huge for really getting the most out of your experience at university. So, you know, definitely making sure you've got a pot of money aside to socialize as well outside your studies. So let's look now a little bit at working out your budget. And again, this might look really, really familiar to some of you if you've already got, you know, quite a lot that you're paying for, and you've got a part-time job or full-time job with income coming in. So the first thing to do is add up your income. So as Sean's just mentioned, you know, you've got all your student loan, your grants and bursaries. It might be that you get some money from family, you know, maybe a family member supporting you whilst you're at university. That could be something that you can factor into your budget. Income from a part-time job that you've got whilst you're studying. And maybe, you know, you're already ahead of the game and you actually started saving before starting at university to give you a bit of a parachute amount of money to take into your first year so that you can enjoy it a little bit more. And then, you know, take off all your essential outgoings. So you've got your amount of money that you've got from your income, and now take off all the essentials. So your essentials might be tuition fees if you have to pay them, but obviously Sean's just mentioned that the majority of cases they are automatically paid. Rent for accommodation, so you will need to think about making sure you've got enough money for your accommodation costs. Any bills, so again, if you are living off campus, utility bills, any phone bills that you know you're still going to need whilst you're at uni as well. Any insurance on your content, and travel costs, so maybe it's a bus pass or maybe it's running your own car, and again making sure you've got food in. And then use whatever's left for other things, so whether that is, you know, your books and your course equipment, or household supplies, or, you know, putting that pot of money aside for socializing. Maybe you're a bit more of a saver, maybe you think, oh, I've got that bit of spare left, maybe I'll put that aside for something else. Or maybe you are somebody that likes traveling, whether that's abroad or in the UK, you know, put some money aside for that as well. So, you know, I think that's a really good 3 steps on just how to work out your budget, which again, it is how easy it is. And this is why we say, you know, please don't let it scare you budgeting. You know, obviously it is a little bit different when you come to uni, because you might have to think about extra costs that you're going to have that you don't have right now, but it is still that easy process that lots of you might already be used to anyway. So let's have a look at money sense. Now, you know, again, a lot of you might have been doing a lot of this already, but first thing for me is look out for student discounts. And, you know, they're not, sometimes you go, you know, when you go shopping, they'll be in, you know, big advertisements in the window that says, you know, we got, I don't know, 10%, 15%, 20% student discount but some places won't actually tell you. So anytime you go up to a counter, or even if you're online, you know, really look into the small prints and everything, look out for student discounts, because they can be massive savings on what you're spending. And that is in food outlets, and if you're going out for meals and stuff like that, you know, lots of places have student discounts, so definitely worth keeping an eye out for those. Sharing transport with your friends and your housemates as well. So, you know, if you're really close friends with your housemates, or maybe you've got somebody living in your accommodation that's on the same course as you, so you've got a very similar timetable, you know, think about sharing the load with transport. Is it actually cheaper for 3 of you to get in a taxi rather than paying for 3 of you to get onto a bus? Who knows? That is worth working out and making sure that you're keeping your costs down. Always consider cheaper modes of transport if you're on your own. So as I say, the taxi thing might work if there's a few of you, but definitely considering cheaper modes of transport. And then buying that travel card, whether it's for the trains or for a bus, buying the card in weekly or monthly or yearly spells. Also, you quite often get percentages off doing it like that. And share the load as well. So if you are real good friends with anybody in your accommodation, and you know, you tend to go to Tesco or Aldi together, think about sharing the load. Do you both need that big box of tea bags or that big jar of coffee, or could you actually share it? So just a few things to think about in terms of keeping costs low, which are really, really easy to think about. So a lot of people worry about, you know, working and study, and I know, you know, this is very much, you know, from experiences from talking to students at Keele, you know, that some courses, you know, are a little bit more demanding than others, but everybody who I've spoke to from all the different courses at Keele have had the opportunity to go out and get a part-time job. You know, as a lot of the speakers tonight have mentioned, there's the great opportunity to become a student ambassador at most institutions. You get the opportunity to turn down work if you're a little bit busy. You can accept work if it's in more your quiet spells, and of course you get the really good opportunity to work with, you know, people like us on open days, and you know, it's a really good opportunity to build you know, your confidence, and to, you know, even make more friends. You know, I know our student ambassador scheme's got sort of nearly 300 ambassadors on it, so it's a huge circle that you can get involved with. Often as well, there's lots of places on all of the campuses over the UK to get part-time work. So whether that's, you know, in the shops or the bars, or, you know, the eateries, there's lots of part-time jobs going there. Also in the student unions as well, head into there. There's always lots of stuff going on and lots of opportunities to get some part-time work. The local areas also obviously tend to have either city or town centres, which is also, you know, great place to go out and find some work as well to help with your funding whilst you are studying. And some final tips. I know we're pushing a little bit for time, so I'll fly through these, but final tips from me are, is it essential? So, you know, is spending £100 on what you're thinking about spending on, you know, is that essential right now, or could you wait for another couple of months and then buy it when you've got a little bit more money aside, to save you worrying about being tight at all with any funds that you've got? Look out for different bank accounts, look out for deals, incentives and cashback schemes. Quite often find these on student accounts, so definitely worth shopping around. Have a separate savings account, so you're able to, if you are able to save, you can just pop that money in there at the start of the month and you won't see it again, so it's not there to spend. Use a budget planner. I'm sure there's some great apps around that you'd be able to pop sort of your income and your outgoings in, and it gives you a calculation at the end, and you can use it, you know, as a planner day to day and keep your eye on what you're spending. Install loyalty cards, you know, just an example, Tesco with your club card, you get loads of club card prices at the moment, which, you know, you're getting some really, really good food products and household products knocked down to really low prices. So make sure you've got, you know, your wallet or your purse full of those, because they're always useful to have. Again, we mentioned student discounts. There are some extra student discounts that you can look at as well. NUS run one that you can pay a little bit up front for, but get even more student discounts. And you can find out lots more online. And as everybody has said today, not just about budgeting, as everybody has said, you know, universities have so much advice and support with the student support teams. So if you are worried about budgeting, or you're having a few financial issues, just head to the student support team and they will be happy to help.
Matt, thank you very much. A great session to finish us off, looking at university budgeting before and when you're actually at university. In terms of the final thank yous, I just want a big shout out for our speakers and also the panelists that have been answering the Q&A. So if I just whiz through, Danny and Luke from Coventry University, Ellie and Liz from Staffordshire We've got Lottie and Craig from Bishop Grosseteste University, Charlotte and Hope from Aston, Rachel and Amy from Birmingham City University, Georgie and Ansar from the University of Birmingham, Alex and Amy, nearly there, University of Derby, Sean William, University of Wolverhampton, University of Nottingham, and Matt and Jonathan from Keele University. Really, really appreciate your time in terms of providing sessions, providing the brilliant answers to Q&As. And I hope you found this event really, really useful. See you again soon. Take care.